Hello everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am here to do a get ready with me style mid-October reading wrap up. I am so excited about the makeup look that I am planning to do for today's video. Let me just show you the eyeshadow palettes I want to use. So I really want to do like a gray, black, and silver like smoky eye. So the Smoke Show palette by Colourpop is definitely the way to go. Those are the colors that we are working with. I mean, it is Halloween time. This is the time of the year to do a dark and smoky eye, right? But I was also thinking of incorporating a couple of shades from my Nautical Nonsense palette by Wet n Wild. I don't know if you can still get this, but there is this really cool like silvery blue glitter shade that I thought would be really cool as well. I mean, come on. Can it get any better than glitter eyeshadow, right? There's a couple of other, like this is a really dark purple that I might incorporate. I don't know, there's some really cool shades in here as well. So I'm very, very excited about the makeup look, and I decided to make these a little bit more of a tutorial in that I will be pointing out why I'm doing what I'm doing in terms of like maybe blending eyeshadow, things like that. I think a lot of you guys have been asking for a video kind of like that from me. I have 19 books to talk about in today's video, so let's just go ahead and jump right on into it. And we're gonna start with our foundation. So the first book that I want to discuss, and I'm so excited to talk about this book, is How the Wallflower Was Won by Eva Lee, or she pronounces it Ava Lee, but I prefer Eva. I don't know. It doesn't really even matter because that's a pen name. It's not the author's real name, but I'm just putting on foundation. This is a stick foundation, and I will link all of the products that I use down in the description below. So definitely be on the lookout for that. So this is book 2 in Eva Lee's Last Chance Scoundrel series, obviously a historical romance series where it centers around these 3 best friends. Well, 2 of them are brothers, and then there's a third guy who's their best friend. And basically their families have given them an ultimatum that they have to marry within, I believe, like a year or 8 months or something, or they will all be disinherited. And they all are from families of nobility, so that would definitely not be good if they no longer had access to their family funds. And so book 1 was The Good Girl's Guide to Rakes, and that was Kieran's romance with Celeste. This one is about Finn, who is Kieran's, I believe, younger brother. And Tabitha, who is a blue stocking, if you don't know what a blue stocking is. And speaking of blue stockings, I haven't talked about this in a video yet, but Lisa from Remarkably Lisa and I have formed a historical romance book club called the Blushing Blue Stocking Society. I'm very proud of that name. I mean, we collaborated on it, but I came up with like the blushing part because I just love alliteration. But yeah, so we're very excited about that book club. I'll talk more about that in my November TBR video, but yes, very excited. So Tabitha is a blue stocking. She is a scholar. She wants to be part of this society that is comprised of a lot of like dukes, you know, members of nobility, but it's all men. And so she goes to talk to someone who's in the society, and he's like, the only way we would seriously consider a woman is if she's married. And so things happen. Tabitha and Finn start becoming friends, and they both realize that a marriage of convenience would be perfect for both of them. And so that's what happens. And y'all, I did not expect to love this book as much as I did, because going into this, I don't know, this felt like it was gonna be kind of a filler book, because I know that we're all so excited for Dom's book, who's the third best friend. His is going to be like a second chance romance and lots of angst for sure. And that whole story of what happened started in book 1, so their story has been built up the whole series, whereas with Finn I was just like, okay, like I'm sure this will be nice, but whatever. This book blew me away. So first of all, Finn is like the perfect man. Oh my god. So he's very sweet and kind, and throughout the book we see that he's a very tender and passionate lover. Lots of amazing dirty talk in this, by the way, which is really fun because you wouldn't expect that out of Finn. He seems a bit more low-key of a hero than, let's say, Kieran from book 1, but he's also funny. He also has kind of like a tragic past. Basically, he has dyslexia, but of course, they didn't know about that back then, and so his family, mainly his father, made him believe that he was just stupid and not worth anything, really. And so because of that, he definitely still has trauma from his past, and he feels that he's unworthy of Tabitha because she's literally a scholar. Obviously, she's an incredible reader. You know, she's seemingly the opposite of him, but I am obsessed with how their relationship develops, not only the romance, but like this friendship, and how like eventually she learns about his past and like how she helps him out with things like reading, and like, I don't know, it's adorable, but also just a really hot and passionate romance. Yeah, this book just really surprised me, and I'm so glad that I loved it as much as I did. So definitely can't recommend it highly enough. Especially if you enjoy Marriage of Convenience, historical romances. This one was just really excellent in my opinion. So next up I have Saga Volume 1. I finally started this comic series. Guys, this has been on my TBR for months and months and months, ever since I got obsessed with comics and manga back in like June, July, I would say, because this is a comic series that like everyone highly recommends who reads comics, and for very good reason. This is a dark and gritty and epic sci-fi series. The main plot centers around these two soldiers that are from opposing planets, opposing sides of this galactic war, and how they fall in love and they have a baby. And that is like the most taboo thing you could do in this world. And so everyone is just after them, and they're just trying to raise this little infant. And I really enjoyed this first volume. By the way, I am putting on a bit of just straight up white concealer on my eyelids because I really want these eyeshadows to pop that I'm putting on today. I think I gave it maybe like 4.5 stars. It wasn't quite a 5-star read for me, but this is also one of those series that I can tell that future volumes I'm going to really love, and I will definitely give them 5 stars. It's just a very epic world that I'm definitely trying to just kind of wrap my head around, but at the same time, things weren't too confusing. It was all like very well done, and I really enjoy the art style. So next up we have some volumes of manga that I've read so far this month. So first up is Yakuza Lover Volume 4. If you've been watching my recent wrap-ups, you'll know that this is a series that I have been quite obsessed with lately, and for like no good reason. I don't know, I find this series to be very addictive. It's basically a Yakuza mafia style romance between Oya, who is a Yakuza boss, and then Yuri, who's just like a normal college student. And like, I don't know, there's something about their romance because it's like very sweet and sexy. Like Oya is like the most devoted hero like ever to Yuri, and I love that Yuri has a backbone and she will stand up for herself and the people that she loves. It's just like a really fun time. It's not like high art or anything, but like I just have so much fun with this series. So I've given all 4 volumes that I've read so far 5 stars. All right, I think it is time to bust out this eyeshadow palette. I am so excited to work on this look. So next up, for some more manga that I've been reading, we have volume 6 and 7 of An Incurable Case of Love. So these are the final 2 volumes of this romance manga series. I'm very happy to report that I've finished a manga series. And this is a grumpy sunshine romance between a doctor who's the grumpy one and then a nurse who is the sunshiny one. And overall, I really like how this series wrapped up for this couple. In particular, it is a happily ever after ending, not like a happy for now. And yeah, this was just a very cute series. I'd give the series as a whole 4 stars, but it wasn't anything that like truly blew me away, because I've read other romance manga that I've enjoyed so much more. So like, would I say this is a must read? No, but I did have a good time with it overall. Next up, we have this series, y'all, is one of my favorites. This is Emokoi Volume 3. So this is a YA romance manga series, and this to me is next level in terms of romance manga. This romance, I think the heroine is Satomi and the hero is Yagyu. Like, their romance is so sweet and adorable, and I love that like little conflicts will kind of get in their way, but they clearly communicate with each other, and like you can just tell that they are equally devoted and in love with each other. And like, what can I say? Like, I'm just addicted to them and their story, and this volume was no different. So very excited for volume 4 when that comes out. This is a very new manga series, so only the first 3 volumes are out in English, but volume 4 is coming out in December, I believe, which is so exciting. Then next up we have Last Light by Claire Kent. So this is technically a standalone novel. This was published in like 2019, I believe, but this takes place in the same world as the Kindled series, which is a series that I have started reading and I'm absolutely obsessed with. I read Haven, which is book 1, I believe last month, and it's literally one of my favorite romances I've read this year. And so I decided to go back and read this sort of like prequel. And I loved this too. I gave this 5 stars. So I am just going into a couple of like these darker gray shades, and I'm just gonna build up the crease of my eyelid with those shades to really darken it up. But yeah, so Last Light, this is about, I gotta look at these character names. I always forget character names. It's about Travis and Lane. And so this takes place in a post-apocalyptic world. 4 years before this novel starts, there was a really catastrophic event that happened, which caused other catastrophic events to happen. And basically like the ecosystem and the environment is like completely messed up, and it's just gotten to a point where like so many people have died, and cities that are left are under martial law. There's no electricity, there's, you know, like no infrastructure, anything like that. So this story starts with our main character Lane, and I think it's been 4 years since that catastrophic event happened, and so she's just been surviving on her own. But this man Travis, who was the town's mechanic, the small town that she's from, he comes upon her when she's in the woods, you know, trying to like gather supplies and things like that. So at first, you know, she's trying to protect herself. She has a gun, and he's just like, whoa, I didn't know like anybody was out here. I promise I don't want to harm you. Would you be interested in traveling together? You'd be much safer with me, a man. And at first she's like, no, I'm good, I'm fine. But then she gets into trouble, I think, and he shows up again, and she's like, you know what? Let's just travel together. For some reason, I do trust you. Even though he's a very gruff and grumpy man, he also seems to have a good heart. And so they start traveling together. So you can think of this as like a road trip romance, a forced proximity romance. They're just trying to survive together. And this was just beautiful. I didn't love this quite as much as Haven, I will be honest. And I think that's because this one was definitely a full-length novel, over 300 pages, and I think that at times the pacing felt a bit slow. But I didn't really care that it slowed down because I just loved these two characters and their story so much. I was just so addicted to them, and I couldn't wait to see what would happen next between the two of them. And what I've realized after reading now 2 books by Claire Kent is that she is like the queen of these like gruff and grumpy heroes that are just the sweetest and most tender of lovers and of men. And it's just, yeah, these are some of my favorite heroes to read about, and the way that he loves and cares for Lane is just amazing. I just love these like sweet and angsty romances set in like this dark and gritty, seemingly hopeless world. But there is some light and there is some hope in this world. I personally would recommend reading Haven first and then maybe going back and reading this one, just because that book made me fall in love with Claire Kent and this series so much. I'm really personally glad that I started with that book first, even though technically this book happened first. It was published first, and the events of this book happen before the events of Haven. All right, next book I'm going to talk about is Duke Most Wicked by Lenora Bell. By the way, I read both this book and How the Wallflower Was Won for a live show that I did with Lisa, where we interviewed Lenora and Eva Lee. So I will link that somewhere, either up in the cards above or down in the description below. Highly recommend that you check out that live show. I loved how that interview came out, and we also just had so much fun. Okay, so while I'm talking about this book, I am going to start building up the outer corner, and I am trying a new technique today, which makes me a little bit nervous. I don't love trying out new makeup things on camera, but I'm trying out a halo eye. So the idea is that I'm gonna build up eyeshadow in the outer corner and also build up darker eyeshadow in the inner corner, so that that just leaves the middle of my eyelid for like the really bright, silvery, glittery eyeshadow. Basically, this is just gonna make my eyes pop in a different way, but I've never tried this technique before, so yeah, I'm a little bit nervous. But yeah, let's talk about Duke Most Wicked. So this is about Viola and West. So West is a Duke, obviously, Duke Most Wicked, but this is also another hero with daddy issues, essentially. His dad was absolutely horrible to him, physically and emotionally abusive, and so because of that, West literally feels that he's like broken and tainted in some way. And so because his father believed the absolute worst of West, to spite his father, even after his father's death, he decided to become the wicked Duke that his father believed him to be, essentially. And so he's definitely a rake. He's a wastrel, you know, he doesn't give a shit anymore about himself. But he has like 5 younger sisters that he is responsible for. And, you know, really the duty of someone of nobility that has younger siblings, especially sisters, is to get them married off, you know, so that they can have a good and stable life. But he's realizing, as his sisters are now becoming the age of you know, marriageable age, he's realizing that his reputation unfortunately has affected his sister's reputations. But another thing going on is that West is broke, straight up broke. And so to help his financial situation and the situation of his sisters, he realizes that he needs to marry someone who is wealthy. He needs to find an heiress, and so he does. He finds an American heiress and they get engaged. But meanwhile, we have Viola, who has had a crush on West for the longest time. She is the music teacher to all of his sisters. And so I think West has kind of always had a crush on her as well. And so this leads to an angsty situation because he is engaged to somebody else and he needs money, and Viola definitely is not an heiress. What I will say though is that I really liked how Lenora wrote the heiress out of the story. I thought it was really well done, and it happened at like the 50% mark, and I feel like that worked out perfectly for the story, because You know, it's always worrisome as a reader when you're reading a romance where one of the love interests is committed to somebody else, but this was really well done. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed this. I gave this like, I guess 4 stars, maybe more like 3.5 stars, because here's the thing. I did enjoy this book for the most part, but there were definitely times where I found myself getting really bored. I also really enjoyed the role that music played, because Viola is a music teacher and she's also a composer. Her father was a famous composer, but now he's kind of infamous. He's trying to kind of get back in the good graces of society. And she's been composing works under his name, because obviously back in this time period, like, women weren't composers, you know? And so I love how this book also brings to light all of the female composers from these time periods that were buried in history and they weren't appreciated during their time, but now they are appreciated through the works of historians and things like that. You know, I remember when I was in college, when I was in undergrad specifically, and I was taking music history classes, we were learning about these female composers. Okay, so now that I have kind of the halo shape going, as you can tell, I'm leaving the center of my lid blank for now. I am gonna build up some black in the outer corners of my lid and leave the inner corners with like the dark gray, because I don't want the inner corner to be like too dark, because that can make my eyes look smaller. But yeah, I'm gonna get some matte black on my brush. But I really enjoyed this overall though. I really love a hero who thinks that he's tainted or broken or unworthy in some way. I eat that shit up. But he can't help but fall for Viola, the heroine. And yeah, there were definitely some good things going on in this book, but like I said, there were parts where I was bored. So would I recommend it? I don't think it's like a must read, but I did enjoy it for what it was. So next up we have Flawless by Elsie Silver. So this is a small town bull riding romance that so many of my friends have been reading this year. I believe this came out earlier this year, probably the beginning of 2022. But yeah, so many of my friends have been reading and loving this book. But the booktuber in particular that finally pushed me to read this was Cheyenne from That Tall Book Girl. I will definitely link her down below. She just raved and raved about this romance. I remember specifically in the video she did of 10 romances you should read before the end of the year. And so I was like, you know what? Let me bite the bullet. Let me get the ebook from Kindle Unlimited. Let's read it. You know, there is no audiobook for it yet, but I believe one is coming out next year. But I thought that this would have like amazing fall vibes, being that it takes place in Canada and it is a small town romance. And it definitely does have some fall vibes for sure. But yeah, this is about Rhett, who is a very famous bull rider, and then Summer is the heroine. At the beginning of the book, we see that Rhett is in some hot water right now in his career, because he has these really big sponsorships, one of them being for a milk company, but lo and behold, Rhett absolutely hates milk, and so he's caught on camera saying that. And so then of course the company drops him as his sponsor, and then he also gets into like a physical altercation with a paparazzi, and so then other sponsors are threatening to drop him, and so now his agent is just scrambling around trying to make things better. And so Summer works for this agency. She's actually the daughter of Rhett's agent. And so because of these scandals, his agent tells Rhett that he needs a babysitter essentially, and that's going to be Summer. And so now we have this forced proximity situation. Now that Rhett is going back to his hometown and to the farm that his family lives on, Summer's going with him, and she's going to be staying with him for the next few weeks while these like bull riding championships are going on. I really enjoyed this. I couldn't help but give it 5 stars. I totally see why. So many of my friends have been loving and enjoying this series, and from what I've been seeing of reviews of the follow-up, which is called Heartless, that book is even better. So I'm very excited to read that book eventually. But I loved the small town vibes mixed with the bull riding aspect. You know, we're following Rhett's career. He's definitely at the end of his career. He's in his 30s now, and this is just a rough and scary career to be going into. And his family has been trying to persuade him to leave this life behind and, you know, start something else, but he's just so stubborn and he refuses to stop. And then I really loved the romance between him and Summer, because I really feel like Elsie Silver did a phenomenal job of balancing their emotional connection with their sexual chemistry and tension and all of that, because definitely at first they don't like each other. This is called like an enemies to lovers romance. They don't really hate each other, but they definitely don't like each other at first. And because of like the forced proximity, they become friends and then something more. And I just thought that it was developed and just written very well. I put in my Goodreads review that, just like the title says, this was pretty damn near flawless. I do think this book is like over 400 pages, but it never felt too long. I do think that the pacing was just really well done, and I think that it did need to be as long as it was. So highly, highly recommend it. I can see why my friends love it. Thank you, Cheyenne, specifically for being the one to make me finally pick this up. Next up, I have books that I read for a 24-hour reading blog that I did. So I'll just quickly point those books out. I think I finished 4 things in that vlog, if I'm not mistaken. One of them was Heartstopper Volume 1. I'm gonna link that vlog up in the cards above, by the way, if you want to check out like my in-depth thoughts about these books. But this is just a really adorable YA romance graphic novel series. Really enjoyed Volume 1, gave that 4 stars. I read The Widow of Rose House by Diana Biller. I really enjoyed this. I almost gave it 5 stars. This is a wonderful, spooky, gothic, Gilded Age romance where we have Alva, who is a widow, obviously. Her husband was abusive to her. Now she's back in New York. She's trying to renovate this dilapidated mansion. Meanwhile, we have Sam, the hero, who's a professor. He's trying to basically prove that ghosts are real. He's trying to get some like scientific basis for that. So he asks Alva if he can investigate the mansion that she's renovating because it's known to be haunted. Things go on from there. Sam is the most amazing cinnamon roll, charming hero. We love him in this house. Like, he is absolutely the reason that you need to pick up this book, though I enjoyed everything else about this as well. Phenomenal. Then I also read Volume 4 of Spy Family. You guys know I adore this series with my heart and soul. Such a fun, like, found family comedy, but it's also epic because of the spy shenanigans going on. Gave this 5 stars as well. Then I completed this omnibus of Full Metal Alchemist. This is volumes 4, 5, and 6. In that vlog, I read volumes 4 in like half of 5, but I did go on to finish this bind up a couple days later. Loved this, gave it 5 stars. This is just such an incredible story, an incredible series. I love the Elric brothers with my heart and soul, though I love the side characters as well, and the villains are very intriguing. The anime series, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, I've been watching that and really loving it as well. Highly recommend, even though this is not a romance series by any means. I think there is going to be a romance eventually, but this is just an amazing story. So next book that I did finish was Confessions. I believe this is Kanai Minato or Kanae Minato. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the first name of the author, but this is a translated work. I believe this is a Japanese author because I'm pretty sure this book takes place in Japan. All right, let me work on blending this halo eye while I talk about this book. So this is like a mystery thriller. Our first main character is this woman who is a middle school teacher, and basically her daughter is murdered, her young daughter. She's like 4 years old, and she knows that a couple of her students were the ones to have killed her daughter. So talk about starting this book off with a bang. The whole first chapter, in my opinion, is the best part of the book, which is a little disappointing because you don't want the beginning of a book to be the best part, but this first chapter is like, whoa, because this teacher is basically giving her final lecture to her students before she leaves the school after her daughter has passed away. She just realizes that she just can't work there anymore, and that's totally understandable. But she's like building this whole story, basically her daughter's life story and like about her husband and like things like that. And then it's revealed that she is full on getting revenge against these students that caused her daughter's death. And it's like, whoa, 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 what is happening? And then from there, after the first chapter, the rest of this book is basically the aftermath of this teacher's revenge and how it affected the students that she was getting revenge against and their families. And like, it's pretty twisted and dark. I thought it was solid for the most part. There's a final plot twist that I thought was really well done, but like I said, the beginning was the best part, unfortunately. So I think I gave this 4 stars, maybe more of a 3.5, but I think I'll keep my rating at a 4-star. Well, then I have Halloween Spirit. I think this is by Latrexa Nova. Is that the author? By the way, I'm gonna add some of this like blue silver glitter eyeshadow right on the center of my lid to like really make that pop. And I'm probably just gonna use my finger because using your fingertip is actually the best way to get the full pigmentation of any given eyeshadow. But yeah, this is just stupid. I kind of buddy read this with Brie from In Love and Words because I saw that she was reading this in October, and I was like, you know what, why not? This looks like fun. It's a Grim Reaper romance erotic novella, and it's about Penny, who's a human, and then Mortimer, who is a Grim Reaper, and it's just how they meet at this party when he's trying to reap someone else's soul, and they have sex and fun times, and it's also very insta-lovey, and like it was just fine. Like I gave it 3 stars. I know Brie gave it 2 stars. It was just fine. But I mean, I can't deny that I was entertained pretty much the whole time, so that's why I gave it 3 stars instead of 2 stars like she did. Ooh, this is looking so cool. Okay, I am obsessed with this glitter. Next up, I read Smash and Grab by Masmatics. So this is an dinosaur shifter paranormal romance series that I was turned on to, I think from Jessin from Jessin Reads Romance, because I saw that her and Juliet did a podcast episode on Sink or Swim, which is the sequel to this one. And so I was like, okay, if they did a podcast episode on this series, like this must be really good. And I had heard other booktubers talking about this series, but I can't remember specifically like who. But I mean, come on, dinosaur shifters? Like what is going on there? So in this book, we have Dalton, who is a dinosaur shifter. He's a part of like, I would say this kind of like fossil saving vigilante group, and they're all dinosaur shifters, where their job is to protect and preserve fossils, dinosaur fossils, and to make sure they don't get into the wrong hands. So we follow our other hero, Simon, who is a paleontologist. He researches and like digs for fossils and things like that. And so he's working on this new fossil that they recently found during a dig, but this like drug dealer, like millionaire dude wants the fossil for himself just as like a trophy, just like for funsies. Yeah, so this like drug cartel leader, millionaire dude sends his goons after Simon while he's working on this fossil. He's trying to uncover the fossil from rock. And so Dalton comes in though and saves him. And so now they're on the run from this dude just trying to get this fossil, and they fall in love along the way. And Simon is someone who he didn't really know that he was gay, or I guess bisexual, until he met Dalton. And y'all, Dalton is like the coolest dude ever. He has like a hot pink mohawk. He's totally like this like grunge edgy dude, and he's so funny. Like I love the sense of humor that Masmatics writes into these stories. I'm so excited to continue on with the series, because if I loved this one and gave it 5 stars, I have a feeling that book 2 is going to be even better, because I know so many people that I follow that absolutely adore that next book. So next up, I'll quickly talk about my reread of A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. This is book 3 in her ACOTAR series. I don't know, I can't think right now. I'm still focusing on this eyeshadow. I am gonna add a little bit more black in the outer corner of my eyes just to deepen that up a little bit more. I want this to look a little bit more dramatic. But this reread was like amazing for me. Y'all, I forget how amazing this third book is. I think all of us as a collective Sarah J. Maas fan club forget how amazing this book is because Mist and Fury is so amazing. So it's like, how could this book ever compare, right? But like, I don't know, man, this book is incredible too. And it is a war-centered book and it's just done so well. Like, so much happens in the span of this book. This book is just about 700 pages. And like, wow, so much happens, and it's just absolutely amazing. Like, this book makes you love Reese even more somehow, and like, oh man, this is just an incredible finale. I'm so glad that I've been rereading these books for SJM along, because I probably wouldn't have reread them when I did otherwise. Okay, you know what? I have 2 books left to talk about. So I'm gonna go off camera and completely finish the eyeshadow look. What I'm going to do while I'm off camera is fill in my eyebrows a bit. I use the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Wiz. That is a fantastic brow pencil. I'm also going to line my waterline with this cream gel liner from Colourpop. It's just black. I'm gonna line my upper lash line a bit as well and add mascara. So I will be right back. Okay, I have been sitting here filming for so long that my battery died on my camera, so I had to replace that, but I'm back. My eye makeup is done. This took forever, but I do think it was worth it because I really like how this halo effect turned out. I'm definitely gonna have to keep doing this in the future. This looks really cool. So let's add some bronzer, blush, and highlighter, and then I will do the lips and be done with my makeup. So I have 2 books left. First up is Blurred Lines by Lauren Lane. I was turned onto this book by Brie from In Love and Words. This is one of her favorite Friends to Lovers romances. I've been working on putting together a Friends to Lovers recommendation video that will actually be posted before this video. So definitely check that video out if you haven't. But this is about Ben and Parker. They have been friends, I think, since high school, and they are now roommates. They're past college at this point. They're both in the workforce. And Parker just got out of a long-term relationship. Like, she thought she was gonna like marry this guy, and then he dumped her. And then Ben is definitely kind of a womanizer. He only has one-night stands. And so after getting out of this relationship, Parker decides that she wants to try casual dating like Ben does all the time. And so she kind of goes to him for advice. And through that, they decide to have a friends with benefits situation, relationship, whatever you want to call it, and then things go on from there. This is a pretty short book. I think the audiobook was maybe like 6 hours, something like that, like not too long. And I just thought this was really solid. I gave this 4 stars. I can definitely see why Brie loved it so much. All right, we are done with the makeup. I'm gonna fix my hair in a minute because I have another video to film after this, but the final book we have to talk about, oh my God. One of my favorite books I've read this year. I can tell you that right now. This is The Surviving Trace by Kalia Reed. I was turned on to this book by Jess from Peace Love Books. She recently did a video all about romances that are perfect to read during the fall. And so she brought up this time travel romance. Now, this is a book and a series that I've heard a lot about in the past. Like, I can vaguely remember Riley from Riley Marie, I think, read this book. And it's just a book that's always just kind of gone on the back burner of my TBR, but because she recommended this specifically for fall, I was like, you know what? Let's make it happen. So this is on Kindle Unlimited. I borrowed the ebook from that. The audiobooks for this series are on Hoopla if you have that series, or that, sorry, that service as well. So like I said, this is a time travel romance. We have Serene, our main character. She is in present day, I believe 2017 specifically. She has a fiance named Will. So she's just living her life. She's an antiques dealer. She owns an antique shop with her best friend. So there's some interesting things going on even before the time travel kicks in. First of all, Serene has this crazy dream where there is this man who is dying and he's laying his head on her lap, and like she just knows that she loves this man and will do anything for him, and it's a very scary situation involving a gun. So she wakes up from that dream, then she finds this photograph where the man from her dream is one of the men in the photograph. And so then one night she time travels back to 1912, specifically to Charleston, South Carolina, where she's like plopped into the life of this woman who's also named Serene, and she's married to this man named Etienne. Etienne is the man from Serene's dream and from this photograph, but the Serene whose life she is now inhabiting has been married to Etienne for like 3 years, but it was a marriage of convenience. They definitely don't love each other. They have affairs outside of their marriage. They hate each other. Etienne hates this woman, and so obviously not knowing that Serene is not the Serene he thinks she is, he is just very aggressive towards her. They don't get along at first. So it is a hate to love romance. When I tell you this book had me in a chokehold from page 1 and did not let me go until the last page, like I am not exaggerating. This was absolutely incredible. I messaged Jess earlier today, I think, because I was like, I can't thank you enough for including this in your fall Rex video, because I know that I wouldn't have picked it up when I did. This was just unreal, like how amazing it was. You know, there's the suspense of like not knowing when Serene was going to like go back to her time or be able to go back to 1912 after she falls in love with Etienne. And there's also the angst of the two of them falling in love with each other, especially because you know, Serene has a fiance in her own time, and it was just so well done. There's some like mystery and suspense elements, and I can't wait to continue on with the series, because this book definitely ends on a cliffhanger. There is no happily ever after at the end of this book, but this is a series of 3 books, so I'm very, very excited to continue on. So that is going to be it for the 19 books I've read so far in October. I hope that you guys enjoyed this chatty get ready with me video. Again, I am very happy with how this makeup look turned out, even though there is glitter all over my face now. It's fine. So with all of that being said, I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to discuss any of the books that I brought up in this video, or if you want to give me recommendations. I'm always looking for like spooky fall romancy recs if you have some. And with all that being said, I would love it if you would leave a like and subscribe. I thank you so much in advance if you do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!